Welcome to the Biz Doctor podcast, my love letter to business owners the world over. I'm your host, Lauren Goldstein, award-winning business consultant and advisor fondly nicknamed the Biz Doctor by my clients. I help business owners who are burning the candle at both ends diagnose what is actually keeping them buried in the day-to-day busy work, and then formulate a treatment plan to adjust their business and team to fit them, so they can take a breath and a vacation and have more fun making a bigger impact than ever. So grab your favorite beverage and your earbuds and let's dive into our latest episode. They say comparison is the thief of joy, and I couldn't agree more. And as business owners, I feel it's oftentimes very hard not to compare our behind the scenes to everybody else's highlight reel. Now, if you've been tuning into the Biz Doctor for a while, you know how the show flows with my solo episodes and then guest episodes. But today I thought I would mix it up and really peel back the curtain and do something we've never done before. Discuss a business through the business owner's eyes instead of through mine as advisor and fractional COO. This is going to be such a powerful and relatable episode, so let's dive in. Welcome back to the Biz Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Goldstein, and today I'm joined in the studio by Andy Fickett, president of Fickett Structural Solutions. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I'm beyond excited to have you on the show. And now to set the stage a little bit, Andy is one of my clients who we've had the honor of working with over the past little bit with our Done For You Hiring Solution Golden teams. And this episode was actually his idea. So with that, Andy, why don't you kick us off by sharing a bit more about your entrepreneurial path and how it led to Fickett and actually being on the show today?
We'll start off with a hard question here. What's interesting is that I never aspired to be a business owner. But there are character traits of a business owner I felt that I've had from day one. And that is ensuring that other people are successful, mentoring, providing resources and support that they need to be successful in their careers. And now we just have a bottom line to manage.
I love that. I love that. So you and I actually met in Austin when you were here for a Vistage retreat. And so tell us a little bit about Vistage and your business and how it all looks today.
Vistage has been an amazing organization. I was introduced to Vistage, which was actually tech in Michigan and Wisconsin a number of years ago. It converted over to Vistage to join the national group. And I've been a member for about 8.5 years now. I was introduced to Vistage by a peer in another CEO roundtable group who felt that what I was going through with buying out a founder, Vistage would provide the support and the resources that I needed, and he couldn't have been more correct. I tell everybody there is no way I would have gotten through the buyout if it weren't for Vistage. That was the group, or my group, that I'm still a member of. The resources, the experience, the knowledge that's in that room that I'm fortunate enough to be a part of, as well as the resources that Vistage makes available on their various networks and world-renowned speakers. It's just a fantastic organization.
Yeah, there's something about being surrounded by other entrepreneurs and actually having those thoughtful, vulnerable conversations about what's actually going on with your business. Because I see it so often today where, we'll look at a business and we think it's doing really great things or very successful. And sometimes the numbers aren't matching, or sometimes the ones that you think are sleepers are actually multi-million-dollar businesses. And so I love that you've supported yourself and your business by putting yourself in a situation where you can really leverage other entrepreneurs and get where you want faster. In terms of your business, Fickett, tell us about your team. Tell us about what your business was looking like and what was keeping you up at night before we met that actually started igniting some of these conversations.
Sure. We were founded back in 2001. Our founder worked for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for 34 years and started this business more as a hobby, something to keep him busy. And because he was so good at it, it turned into a business. when I'll back up here. I met Phil Fish, our founder, probably 2006, 2007, through teaching bridge inspection courses together. And we would teach those for state DOTs, local agencies, other consultants, and we would travel the country. Some of the courses are 3 days long, and there's a course that's actually 10 days long. So you have a lot of time to get to know your co-instructor, having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sitting in a classroom 8 hours a day. So we created what I felt was a great relationship. And in 2010, he approached me asking if I would be interested in relocating to Madison, Wisconsin from Tampa, Florida, and taking over the business and buying him out. And it was, I kind of alluded to this before, nothing that I had really considered, but the opportunity intrigued me. Honestly, it was a way out of Florida, which was a good thing. Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation. But I guess it's the first time that I ever thought of myself in that role. It made sense. The characteristics that in the values that I feel are important. I think those transition over from whether you're a project manager, supervisor, or mentor. A lot of those traits carry over to being a business owner or being a president. And once we started finalizing the buyout, the transition, that's when money got involved, right? What's the business worth? What does the founder think it's worth? What does the buyer think it's worth? And that's where Vistage came in, and the resources, whether it be accountants, attorneys, or a member that had acquired 3 firms already, had been through the process and said, here's what you need to look out for, right? Here's where you need to give in a little. Here's where you need to hold your ground. And just the advice was just phenomenal.
I love that. Yeah. Avoiding those hidden landmines is critical for having more sustainable success, I think. So in terms of your business specifically, what was keeping you up at night in those few weeks before we talked, and then in the subsequent weeks when we did talk and you actually decided to hire me in Golden Key Partnership?
Okay. And I guess you had asked that before and I failed to answer it.
That's okay.
So when I came to the company in 2011, we worked with both public and private clients. When I got here, 85% of our business was with private clients, 15% with public. We have actually flipped that in the 12 years that I have been here. Some of it intentional to where we were more balanced, but it just happened to work out that we went beyond 50-50, and now a majority of our work is with public clients. And each one is very different in how you pursue the work, the contracts that you have to work with, invoicing, just the day-to-day is different with each type of client. And we were struggling being good at both. Right. And understanding the idiosyncrasies and as a small business, trying to figure out things ourselves at first. We can make this work because we don't want to spend money. We don't have to spend. And so we struggled for a while, just kind of tripping over ourselves. We'd figure something out, step forward, couple steps back. And I'd say 2 years ago was really when we said, you know what, there are experts out there in all aspects of business, and there's nothing wrong with engaging them in supporting us. Right. And that's worked well in most aspects of the business. And this most recent one, and where we got to know you and engaged Golden Key, was finding the A players, finding the key talent. We know exactly who we want as far as the personalities and the values and all that. But where do you go to find them? How do you convince somebody that we're a place that they should work? How do you convince that person that's working for a well-established firm with hundreds, if not thousands of employees to come to a small business with less than 30?
Yeah. It's so interesting because what I love about what you just shared is you said, well, on one hand, we we didn't really want to spend the money. But on the other hand, we were tripping over ourselves, and we knew that there were people that could get us there faster and collapse time. So for those that are listening that own businesses that are hesitant to hire outside consultants, what would be your advice to them? What is the benefit, and why is it something that will really benefit their business?
Well, I would say as a group of engineers that we are, numbers are a big part of our daily lives, right? And we had never bothered, I would say, to look at the numbers to see what we were spending trying to figure it out ourselves versus, you know what, if we get somebody in here that knows what they're doing, it's going to happen a lot quicker. The job's going to be done a lot better, and it's going to solve a problem for us. And, you know, it seems obvious after you're done, right? Well, why didn't we do this years ago? But it, you know, you've got to learn from your mistakes. And I think that's what we've done. And you're investing in your future, and you may think it's a lot of money, and it may be, but if you're addressing this or approaching this the right way, this isn't, hey, we're going to get this done and we're looking for December 31st. That's our finish line. That's not the right mindset, right? Simon Sinek's The Infinite Game is, right, we just keep going, right?
Yeah.
And you're investing in a long-term goal, and that's getting me to retirement, turning it over to the next generation, leaving them a business that is well run and in a good position, and hopefully they are able to do the same thing. So it's looking out farther, that vision, which I think was probably the final factor. Like, we need to do this if that's our goal.
Yeah. So in terms of any hesitancy that people have when they think about hiring an outside person versus hiring somebody full-time in their business, because I mean, I'm fractional COO to companies, which is great, but in my personal opinion, not everybody needs a full-time COO. So tell me, from your perspective as a business owner, what's the benefit of, instead of going through and hiring somebody like right now, bringing in a consultant to go along with you until you're at that point?
The consultant brings a different perspective, right? They're not in the weeds like we are. And when we first met and started talking about the role that we wanted to fill, we admitted that our initial reaction was, we just want the opposite of what we had, right? It wasn't working, so we just want to do a 180 and do the opposite. And you brought us to our senses pretty quickly that no, that isn't what you need. You actually need to think about this. And, you know, that's the natural reaction. It's just kind of, well, this didn't work, so let's just do the opposite. And that isn't necessarily the case. So having your perspective, asking, you know, thoughtful questions got us to where we needed to be.
Yeah. And a little bit of context for those that are listening. So what had happened, so Andy and I met in Austin. We explored doing a diagnostic deep dive together. And then he actually realized that he had another consultant that he was working with currently, that maybe he could add a few things onto their plate and complement that. And so we were talking about an employee on their team that was no longer a fit for the growing and scaling that they were about to embark on. And the replacement of that employee was proving to be a very big challenge. And so I actually, just having a conversation, because Andy and I had become friends, I said, you know, I offer this service to my COO clients where we do done for you hiring. I've never offered it as a one-off, but I know you're struggling. Would this be something that you're interested in? And because Andy is coachable and believes in investing in experts, he said, yeah, let's give it a go. So from your perspective with Golden Teams, what has been the most valuable part of having me come in and do this for you and also alongside you?
Boy, there's several. My initial thought is just the burden, right? The pressure of feeling we've got to get this done and potentially falling into the trap of not not that it's a perfect employee, but maybe giving in a little to maybe what our expectations were. Settling, maybe that's a better word for it. Is not settling because we're in a panic mode because employees have more on their plate than what they should, right? They've taken up the slack that was left by the person that left. And that can't be a long-term solution. Right. So we needed that solution, and it was nice having somebody, to help us through that process and really check us to make sure that we weren't relaxing on our standards, right? To try to get to an end game quicker than what we ought to.
Yeah. And something, at least from my perspective, one of the goals with Golden Teams is not only to fill a role for you, but also to teach you how to fish and teach you a little bit about our Hiring Made Simple framework, which we are about to dive into once this new employee that we've hired starts for you. And so I'm curious, since you've watched my process, one of the fun things about Golden Teams is my clients actually get to see me interview someone. And you made a comment about my interviews, and I'd love for you to share that with the listeners.
Sure. As simple as it seems, right? We're all used to having conversations on video now, right? It's such a different perspective when there's no pressure on you during the interview, right? You're wanting to be an active listener, right? You want to hear what the candidate has to say, but you're also contemplating, okay, what am I going to ask next? So you're never truly engaged in listening, and being able to just watch the interview allows you that, right? That opportunity where you can rewind it. What did they say? And honestly, your questions are way better than ours, but that's another part of it. But yeah, it's such a different perspective, as simple as it is. And maybe we just record moving forward of the in-person, but it's such a different perspective and allows you to process things better, allows you to evaluate better. I think you're more aware of body language, right? And how they're, the person's responding, whether it's facial expressions or fidgeting, whatever the case may be. It's, that fly on the wall, right? And it's a great experience.
That's so funny. You two young Jedi can interview like me. Just you wait. So I know you've worked with other consultants, advisors, experts before. What has been different about working with me compared to those other consultants?
In regards to hiring, or just in general, all consultants?
Let's go all consultants. Yeah. Is there something that you've seen that we do particularly well or different that you find to be incredibly valuable?
Let's see. I'll try to answer that in two parts. In the bigger picture, just outside consultants, I would go back to Vistage, and my group there is just asking for referrals, right? And, if you're hiring out an accountant or HR, to me, it's just a different feel, right? They have their processes, which are fine, and they have their area of expertise. And I just feel that finding the right employees is just a different level of responsibility, right? And, we talk with recruiting agencies and headhunters, and it just seems like my perception is that they're motivated by how many candidates can we get placed, right? Because then that's when the fee comes in. I never had that feeling with you, and you only confirmed it, that you were committed to finding us a great candidate, or at least candidates to choose from. And I always felt that you took the process personally. And I don't always feel that with an accountant or an HR, right? It's we're a number. And, oftentimes as a small business, we are kind of down the food chain, right? We're not a big national firm that deserves the attention in their eyes. And I never felt that way working with you and your team.
I love that because you're spot on. So just in case you were listening when he said accountant, I'm not an accountant, so don't let that confuse you. But something that I'm so passionate about is that personal touch. And I really don't take on a lot of clients because I don't want you to be another number or feel like a number. And there's such nuance in teams and operations that I want to make sure we have the space to really get to the root cause, to find that right person that's going to make a difference. And so in that same vein, in terms of, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the difference that you see between me and, say, recruiters. Because obviously I'm not a recruiter. I'm not a headhunter, fractional COO. Business advisor. We do done for you hiring. So are there any other differences you see specifically with hiring that put us ahead above anyone else?
Absolutely. We talked with a couple other recruiting firms, and you have the initial discussion, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even call it an interview. I'll call yours an interview. That it's very broad brush. They don't ask the questions to truly understand who we are, right? Mm-hmm. What we stand for, what's important to us. And let's see, when you talk with Brian and I, our operations manager, I think it was about a 2-hour interview.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That completely unexpected, but holy cow, that's what we needed, right? That was you getting to know us. And it wasn't just about developing the ad or the job description. It was getting to know us. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. The next one is the approach and your doggedness. Is that a word? Right.
Sure.
When the ad wasn't getting the attention that we thought it should, mm-hmm. right? You just dove right in and said, something's wrong. I'm going to figure this out, right? Yeah. You called Indeed, and then you said, well, what if we change this? What if we tweak that? And you were relentless until it worked, mm-hmm. right? When whatever it was, whether it was Middleton versus Madison, right? Mm-hmm. Was it the title of the role? I don't know what it was, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is we got flooded with applicants once we got it right.
Yeah.
And I don't know for sure, but my guess is that wouldn't have happened with another firm, or that our recruiters, because again, they're working with a lot of people, not just us.
Yeah. It's so funny that you bring that up. So for those of you that have been listening, you know I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I really don't love when things don't go the way that I want them to go. And so the process that Andy's talking about for Golden Teams, it starts with basically a role diagnostic where we sit down, we talk about the role that you're hiring for. And this is honestly one of the things I think is the biggest difference between me, again, not a recruiter, and other people who recruit or talent search, is that I'm not just taking the role that you want to hire for at face value. So you told me that you wanted this role, but then I said, okay, let's actually dig into the accountabilities, the responsibilities. How is this going to look, to really understand, is it one role? Is it 2 roles? Is it like, what does it actually look like? So anyway, we did this diagnostic. We had a plan. We put up the job post, and I've been doing this for 12 years, and this is the first time that this has ever happened to me. We got absolute crickets, and I was sitting at my desk. I was talking to my team, and I said, for a briefest moment, I said, guys, oh my God, do we not know how to do this? What is happening? This is so bizarre. And so, once I got out of that momentary imposter syndrome, I said, okay, well, let's go do some diagnosing. That's probably not a word. Diagnosing. That's the word I'm looking for, of what is actually happening with this and why is it not working? So I went to work. I audited the title, the salary, the benefits, how it was showing up on Indeed. I even called Indeed after I did all of those things. And it's still we had made a few tweaks, but we were still only seeing little changes. And so I called them and I said, all right, guys, I've changed these things. We're still not seeing the impact that we should, given the fact that we're putting money behind this, etc. And I said, I actually think your algorithm is broken because it's not showing up the way that it was. So I escalated it, had the engineers get into it. And then it was partially an algorithm thing, but it was also, I think, probably the other things. But once I made that call and escalated it to an actual ticket and said, I think that there's something wrong, that's when it really started working. And then that's when we got some really solid candidates. And I'm very happy with the one that we hired. And I can't wait to see how she fits in. And so kind of to bring us full circle, is there anything else you would like to share about your behind the scenes and what you were struggling with before with hiring and how I've solved that problem, or the best parts of working with me, or any advice you would have out there for another business owner that is also struggling with hiring, or maybe got burned and now is like, I just want to hire somebody not like that person? What do you got?
Boy, where do I start? Let's see. Let's continue with the process, I guess. It was funny to watch the interviews that it took a while for the candidates to realize that you weren't an employee of Fickett, right? Because how you presented everything, it was we and us. Mm-hmm. And that's so important to lay that groundwork, that foundation that we're in this together. Mm-hmm. Right. I thought that was a nice touch, and I'm sure that wasn't an accident. I'm sure that was very deliberate. And so that was good. The referral process I thought was fascinating. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is obvious to smart people like you that have been doing this for a long period of time. But, we've always asked for references. Mm-hmm. And we've always been told, well, you're never going to get any great information out of that because nobody will say anything. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. But the way you were able to handle those interactions and then asking them what they thought their reference would say, I thought it's a neat twist to get them to think. And that's fantastic. That was great. We did get, and you shared with us, I would say, extremely funny response from one candidate about the process of having to do a short loom as part of the process. And that did exactly what we were hoping for. That weeded out somebody that would not have been a fit. Mm-hmm. Right. So all these little tools that work in our favor to present great candidates for us to consider when I'm not sure the candidates even know what's going on. And I think that's probably what the magic is. Mm-hmm. They don't realize that they're it's not being led down a path, but there's a purpose behind every step of the process that you make. Mm-hmm. And it happened rather quickly once we got the ad, the post figured out, the candidates came in, we had in-person interviews and an offer and a new employee starting June 5th.
Yeah.
It was that quick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny because it's meant to be polarizing, to be very honest with you. It's meant to test a lot of things to save everybody time, but it's also meant to be a little bit polarizing for the sole purpose of attracting the right people and repelling the wrong people. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Okay. Any other last words about what it's been like working with me, best parts of working with me in Golden Key?
All the parts have been the best parts.
I did not tell him to say that. That was completely candid.
This is unpaid advertisement, right?
Yeah.
Yes. No, it was refreshing as a whole. It confirmed that, kind of what we figured out is it makes sense to hire experts to do what they're experts in, which is people hire us because we're experts in our field. So it just makes sense. And to understand that it's a commitment, right? It's an investment in the company, in the future of the company, in your employees. Mm-hmm. And as important as culture is, right? You don't want to mess that up, right? You don't want to bring in that bad egg. You don't want to disrupt what we think is an excellent culture by a bad hire. And your process, your due diligence, just ensured, we believe, right?
Yeah.
that Joelle is that person, that good fit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay. Last question I ask all of my guests. What is a book that you think every entrepreneur, let's try that again. What is a book that you think every entrepreneur or business owner should read and why?
Oh boy. I have to pick one.
I mean, you can do one or two.
Okay.
That helps.
Right. So The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni is one. That's right. Humble, hungry, and smart.
Yep.
3 of our core values. We don't waver off of that. Extremely important. Honestly, any of his books, right, are fantastic.
They're so good. Yep. I agree. Plus one.
Yes.
Retweet.
Yes. They're fantastic. And I'd say Simon Sinek, Start With Why. That's kind of when I started reading business books and listening to books, but that's front and center. And it's again, it seems simple, right? But it's that switch in the thought process, right? And what we stand for. So our why is we ensure every structure we inspect is safe, right? That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. That's what we work for. Everything we do is towards that goal, whether it's a bridge, a building, a dam, whatever it happens to be. Our responsibility is to ensure that it's safe. So that really resonates with me. And I talking with my staff, they probably say we hear about it too much, but it's not enough. It never is.
Both great books, both books that I've read. You mentioned another book by him, Infinite. Which one?
The Infinite Game.
The Infinite Game. I'm gonna go order that one because that sounds fascinating. So you've read that one. What's that one about?
That one is, I guess, how short-term goals can work against you. Right. So let's say we met a goal on December 31st that we were profitable. Well, what happens January 1st? Right. And if you've had that mindset that it's just these small goals you're not reaching and, hey, we did that. Now what? Right. You want this company to be here for the long term, right? For the next group of leaders, the next generation. And that's how you ought to be operating, not just these random, well, December 31st isn't random in a lot of businesses, right?
Yep.
For obvious reasons. But that shouldn't be the end game. Right?
Got it.
And it shouldn't be, well, if we didn't meet our goal, then we're terrible at what we do. That is, no, you just drew a line on that day and that's where things were. That shouldn't stop you from continuing your journey.
Wow. I really, really love that. Well, thank you, Andy. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. Any last remarks before I officially close us out?
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
For sure. When people ask me what I enjoy most about my job, it's telling people how good our people are. Right. But I also do that for people in the industries, such as yourself, that's a big deal for me. That if I work with somebody, find somebody that I really like, they do a great job, then we're going to spread the word as best we can through referrals, introductions, and what have you. It's easy to do, right? And we certainly know the people appreciate it. And yeah, so that's important to me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been so fun, not only having you on the show, but also working with you. I cannot wait to see the team develop and Joelle grow into her role. So that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening in. If anything I shared sparked something in you, we'd love for you to share this episode with your friends and fellow business owners. Don't forget to subscribe so you're the first to get notified when our next episode is live and ready for your ears. I'd also love to hear from you, so let's connect. Feel free to tag or DM me on Instagram at It's Lauren Goldstein or LinkedIn or wherever you hang out on the interwebs. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks again for joining us, Andy. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Until next time. listening to the Biz Doctor podcast. Now, I like to say that friends don't let friends WebMD your business. So if you're wondering what your next steps could be, here are some options for you. No matter what, head to the show notes or to my website, goldenkeypartnership.com, for some impactful resources to support you getting out from under your business. That's also where you'll find the links to learn more about our services and how we support business owners, just like you, who are ready to make the successful jump from business operator in the trenches to visionary business owner with more freedom and flexibility. All of that info is on our website, so pop on over to learn more or get in touch. goldenkeypartnership.com. Finally, if you love the Biz Doctor podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would share it with your friends and network and give us a 5-star rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast.
This is Story Studio Network.